morning and rises. It's time to wake up with Sonia Poulton, Sonia Poulton, Sonia.
Good morning and great to you. Good morning. I hope you can hear me. I hope you can see me. Oh yes, my usual chaotic start to wake up with Sonia Poulton, and guess it is exactly 9 a.m. GMT. Thank you for being here. It's Friday, 31st of January. How did we get to the end of January, people? How did we? Good morning and grand risings to you all. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, lovelies. Kelly is able to listen to us live for the first time. Thank you for being here, Kelly. We truly, truly appreciate it. Good morning, of course, to our mods, although it's just Crazy Bunny today. Soul Sound isn't with us today, but we send her masses of love, masses of love. And hello, Fazana and London Lady and Joe and Randy and Louise Borda, and another Sonia and Willie and Kiwi and JT and Sean and Dilip and Chris and GCR and you name it, they are all in the house. Thank you for being here. We truly, truly appreciate it. Good morning and grand risings if you're just arriving, and welcome to the show that walks with the confidence of someone who knows they've already won. Oh yes, sirree. Oh yes. And Kung Hai Fat Choi, welcome to the Chinese Year of the Snake, which began on Wednesday this week, 29th of January. Remember, snakes shed their skin and the vibes are all about renewal, rebirth, and regeneration. Snakes are demonized in Western culture, but celebrated in Eastern cultures. And this year is expected to be one of positive transformation as people slither and slide into new beginnings. If they're willing to take the leap, that is. It's all about shedding the old and embracing the new. And that's what we're all about around here. Whatever you need to let go of, now is the perfect time. Be that toxicity, hangers on, ego, let go of the past, let go of anger, let go of regret. It's time to move on. So let's do this, peeps. Let's do this. Right, what's coming up on today's show? I'll be joined by writer and mother Sarah Newlin on the news review, and Dr. Robert, not a doctor, of Health Freedom UK, who will tell us all about his spiritual journey at 10 o'clock. Plus, we'll be looking at the US plane crash, the assisted dying committee this week, Home Office extremists, a leaked memo. Yes. And I'll also be looking at Gabbard and Kennedy, their confirmation hearings. Now we're going to see if it's all talk, or will they really do the right thing when they have the power to do so? This is the moment, people. Are these people warriors or just a better, more plausible class of shill? And we're looking at Rotherham police arrests, government gaslighting as per, Mandelson grovels, and don't we love seeing it? And Weinstein, however you want to pronounce it, begging, it's got the begging bowl out. And CPS and Lucy Letby and Geoengineering Watch and Satanists in Glasgow. And we've been told for many years that Satanists don't actually exist. I'm here to tell you something different. And we'll end with manifesting your desires. Oh, yes, indeed. Oh, and both Sky News and GB News are failing and running out of cash, and both may not last throughout this year. That's right. Plus, today we have special giveaways. Yes, we do. And a special announcement at the end of the show. So stick around. All the usual good stuff, viewer emails, live chat. We do news differently around here. And you know why? Because someone had to. Oh, yes, indeed. And how are you, beautiful people? I see lovely Charlotte. Good morning, fam. And Marcuson, how are you all, lovely people? And we already have Dr. Robert, not a doctor, in the comments. Good morning. And hello, the Countess of St. Germain and Fox and Willie and John from Coventry and Heldo and Daniel McManus. Good morning to you, Daniel. Good morning. I think I saw something funny from you. Oh, no, wait, that's not Daniel. Yes, I think it was actually. I'm pretty sure I saw a funny comment from Daniel earlier. Let me see if I can find it. I like to find these things when I see them. No, I can't, Daniel. But anyway, it made me smile. Does that help? I'm not sure if it does. And good morning to Steve. Steve is already on the treadmill listening. How are you, Steve? Hope you are well. Get that in, Steve. Do it. You got it, man. We're behind you. We're backing you all the way. And it was very interesting this week that a BBC review which was released, confirmed that people were too scared to raise concerns about Russell Brand when he worked at the corporation. A BBC review into the conduct of Russell Brand during his time with the broadcaster has found a number of people felt unable to raise concerns about his behaviour. This is not new. This has been going on in TV since the beginning of TV time. And that is these people, they call them talent, which I think is just horrible because it's just that everybody else is not. But these people out front are known as talent, and they are like demigods within TV land. And Russell Brand was no different at all. So I'm not surprised by that. But I also want to know, where is the investigation into DJ Tim Westwood? Both Russell Brand and Tim Westwood faced BBC investigations and police investigations, and both have police investigations still pending. How are you, Drumstick? I hope you're well. And good morning, Claire. And good morning, Laura. Lovely to see you all. Blind Hip Shaker never liked him. Never. No way, Gary. That's mad. What happened? Have I missed something? Pay Netflix? How? Only way is BBC tax. What's that? Listened to the 2-day Kennedy hearing. Really showed the farmer shills. Wasn't it extraordinary? Let's all quiet on the Westwood front. Yes, Simon. All quiet. The last thing that I heard was that the BBC have completed their investigation into Tim Westwood, but the Metropolitan Police had asked them not to release it yet. Make of that what you will. And in the UK today is Tax D-Day. Oh, yes, it is. I hate this day every year and go right up to the wire to file my taxes. I do it and I sit and seethe about what my money is being used for. But this year, something curious happened while I was filing my taxes, and that has inspired our final thought today. And it's all about manifestation. Yes, indeed it is. Oh, and talking about the year of the snake, did anyone see Nigel Farage's ritual humiliation on TV? Oh, yes, indeed. There he is on this morning, Chinese New Year, the year of the snake begins, and they've got him looking like a right proper clown. Yes, they have indeed. They've got him looking like a clown out there. They have. Yeah, they have. And more storms, 3 UK storms in the last week. The latest is Storm Ivo, which is said to have arrived from the continent, as we still call it sometimes. And it's a Portugal storm, we're being told. But what was interesting was that I'd received a number of emails and people saying to me after the storms over the last few weeks, they've never seen their windows so filthy. Never seen them so filthy. And thank you to regular contributor Trev, who responded to my "How are your windows looking?" appeal after the 2 previous storms. Let's have a look at Trev's windows. Let's have a look at them. Trev said, "Forgot to mention about my dirty windows. I've never seen them like this before, and I clean them regularly. Billy Goat's up to his tricks as always." Love Trev and Toby. And Toby is his dog. And look at the state of them. Trev, are you sure you're not just a dirty beggar? I don't think he is, actually, not for a second. Show me your windows, people. Do your windows look even more ghastly than usual after these storms? Let's track it. Let's keep tracking it, people. Let's keep tracking it. And in the same week, they released the JFK tapes and confirmed state complicity. There is this extraordinary crash. Extraordinary crash. What do we make of this plane crash? How did this happen? How did this plane happen? It was coming into a land on runway 33. Runway 33. The shocking collision took place as the American Airlines flight carrying 64 people made its final approach to Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport, runway 33, shortly before 9 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday night. A Black Hawk helicopter flying a training sortie cut through the airspace from the opposite direction under cover of darkness, with both aircraft seemingly unaware of the other's presence. I cannot get my head around this. It's the first fatal crash involving a US commercial airline since 2009, when 50 people died in Buffalo, New York, following a crash of Bombardier DHC propeller aircraft. President Donald Trump said he had been fully briefed on this terrible accident, and last night he appeared to be blaming this on diversity hires. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He also wrote on social media, the airplane was on perfect and routine line of approach to the airport. The helicopter was going straight at the airplane for an extended period of time. It is a clear night. He wrote that in capital letters. The lights on the plane were blazing. Why didn't the helicopter go up or down or turn? Why didn't the control tower tell the helicopter what to do instead of asking if they saw the plane? This is a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented. Not good. Louise said, remember the film Black Hawk Down? Now, this is what's weird, Louise. You saying that, right? I kid you not. Yesterday, when I was on one streaming service or another, I can't remember which one it was actually. It might have been Netflix. Oh, yes, it was Netflix, because I was looking at the new O.J. Simpson documentary, which is the most graphic I've ever seen, but I'll save that for another time. And out of nowhere, up popped Black Hawk Down as a recommendation for me. What's that about? And then when I tried to look for it, it said it wasn't available in the UK. Don't you think that's weird? Don't you think that's weird? Jeanette, DEI hiring overlooked more experienced applicants. More than likely that happens. Jeanette, that happens. I had a Metropolitan Police cop who told me that there were people who were receiving gun training who were ill-equipped for it. So basically, people who were ill-equipped to be carrying guns were being trained in carrying guns. Bit frightening, right? So what do we know so far about this plane crash? Well, there are no survivors, of course. No survivors. Very sad. Appalling. Absolutely appalling. I wonder if the helicopter was remotely controlled. Mickey, we cannot rule any of these things out. We had a colonel with us on Monday. Of course, she was talking about Operation Gladio. And Operation Gladio is sort of the psychological operation to end all psychological operations. And it's been proven that they actually have assassinated people in order to achieve their end goals, which is usually some sort of agenda to change the way that society thinks or views things. The US figure skating body said that athletes, coaches and family members were on the crash plane. And what else do we know? All the usual stuff happened. Inflatable boats, dive teams searched the site, helicopters circling above, large floodlights were illuminating the scene from the shore. And a friend of a friend told me an interesting theory, and this is only a theory, people. Do not hold this against me. Said that false flag operations notoriously take place when presidents and prime ministers take office. So I put that to the test. And George W. Bush took office in 2001 and 9/11, a known false flag followed in 2001. Donald Trump took office a couple of weeks ago. We have extremely rare airplane crash. Keir Starmer took office, and many people believe that what happened in Southport is a psyop, a false flag. So who knows? Do not rule anything out with these psychopaths in power. But I feel that this air crash is intentional in some way. Hate me for it if you want. Something feels off about it. Something feels off. Morning all. Way back when the Titanic sank was an insurance scam. Horrifying, says Mads. The sun is shining. Well, it's not here, Randy. I don't know where you are. Louise said, I read a tweet that there was no one on the plane. Interesting. Kat said, Gut said it was on purpose. Remote helicopter. Right before impact, the helicopter makes slight turn. Saw that, Kat. Directly into plane. For more powerful and direct impact, like to know who everyone was on the plane. Indeed. Yes, Jacqueline, rather. We do need Richard D. Hall's opinion on Southport. Crazy Bunny thinks it was remote controlled. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting and it's curious. Right. I see that Interpol have arrested a cult leader suspected of child trafficking. They have arrested Yoel Alter, a senior member of the Lev Tahor cult in Guatemala. Alter is wanted in Mexico for suspected human trafficking and will be extradited. The arrest comes at the height of a crisis surrounding the cult in Guatemala, where 148 children are being held after they were separated from their parents, who are suspected of severe abuse. Alter is the second cult member to be arrested in Central America in the past month. And it's going to be interesting. This is a Jewish cult, and they have been long suspected of human trafficking in this Lev Tahor cult. So we shall see. We shall see. Could be a psyop, just say. Could indeed be a psyop. In December, police raided the Colts compound in Santa Rosa, Guatemala, and rescued 160 minors and 40 women. I feel there is so much more to come out about that. So much more, but I just wanted to give you that brief headline. And the other thing that I think is also quite interesting is 2 former South Yorkshire police officers have been arrested over Rotherham abuse claims. Of course, Rotherham is absolutely at the heart of the so-called grooming gang scandal. These 2 former police officers, the police watchdog rather, said that the alleged offences are said to have been committed by the 2 former South Yorkshire police constables. We're talking about a retired officer in his 60s who's been investigated following complaints of child abuse against 2 girls between 1995 and 1999. He was arrested in October on suspicion of misconduct in public office and 3 counts of indecent assault, as well as other allegations. The second former officer is in his 50s, was arrested in December on suspicion of sexual assault and misconduct in public office. Assistant Chief Constable Hayley Barnett of South Yorkshire Police said, "Our first priority in this case and always is the victims and survivors." Are you sure about that, Chief Constable? Because there's a whole big story going back decades, which would suggest that the least of your priorities is victims and survivors. And she goes on to say, "We're working closely with the Independent Office for Police Conduct to support their investigation, which is being carried out by South Yorkshire Police's Major Crime Unit. It's never too late to report if you're a victim or survivor of child abuse and exploitation. I'm acutely aware of how difficult it can be to report such crimes, particularly when the suspects are serving or former police officers, but we are steadfastly committed to securing justice." People don't believe you. Sorry, people just don't believe you. No, they don't. This goes right to the top and you know it. I do. I do indeed. Council grooming interviews were not recorded or minuted. Paul, did you email me on this? When did you email me? I'm plowing through my emails. I'm literally still answering emails from 3 weeks ago, people. Bear with me. And let us talk about these confirmation hearings. The Kennedy one, yikes. Did anyone see the firing line that he faced on, I think it was Wednesday and Thursday? And it's a completely different system to how it operates in the UK. In the UK, the Prime Minister decides who is going to be in his cabinet. In the US, the president decides who he wants on his team, and then they have to go through this confirmation hearing with an assortment of senators. And some of it, frankly, is just farcical. Let's talk about some of RFK. One of my favorite, actually, was when he speared Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is one of those, I'm sorry, insufferable people, an absolute virtue signaler who, by all rights, should be a really fantastic individual, but actually is so busy virtue signaling and propping up the woke agenda that he's just one of those people who's been there for so long and claiming so much money. And I'm sorry, people aren't going to like this, but he reminds me of Jeremy Corbyn. He reminds me of Jeremy Corbyn in so many respects. Jeremy Corbyn would potentially have been a good prime minister if he wasn't so hugely part of the whole woke agenda and believed that men could be women and all that stuff, which is obviously disturbing. But when RFK called out Bernie Sanders, that was quite incredible. What he actually said was Bernie Sanders, along with everybody else who was there, had been receiving money from giant pharmaceutical companies. Bernie Sanders was like coughing and spluttering like, I don't know what, I didn't. It turned out that actually, yes, Bernie, you did. You received at least $5 million, it would appear, from pharmaceutical companies. But there were some things that I was deeply disturbed about, right? Because obviously the idea is that RFK Jr. is going to be the director of health. And we, from the outset, it all sounded great, right? It all sounded great. And this whole idea that a man who has been fighting against issues to do with vaccinations is going to be in charge of the nation's health. And that sort of stuff will have a trickle-down impact around the rest of the world. But I was really disturbed by some of the things that RFK Jr. actually had to say. One of them was he described Operation Warp Speed as an extraordinary accomplishment. That, of course, was the fast rolling out of the C-19 jabs. Now, I don't know whether he's playing a game. of saying all the right things in order to be confirmed? I don't know. But he came over as someone who is really strongly pro vaccination, actually, and I had some issues with that. So one of the things he said, he's not anti-vaccine, that he's pro-vaccine, that vaccines play a critical role in healthcare, and he's made these statements on multiple occasions. Excuse me. And I just wonder, is he playing the game? Is he playing the game to get confirmed, or is this really what he truly believes? Because if so, I am very, very confused. I mean, it might be that he's saying all this stuff to get his foot in the door. But let us not forget that these people, these senators that they were facing, are up to their eyeballs in big pharmaceutical money. And when you have people like Elizabeth Warren, who has received 1,224,145 as one example of pharma money, and she's there and she's coughing and spluttering, and you just have to wonder who these people think they are. And what he actually said to her was, "You're asking me not to sue pharma companies." She was like, "No, I'm not." And RFK was like, "That's exactly what you're doing." And I just find all of it a bit curious. There, of course, are critics, absolute critics. Dr. Shiva, or Dr. Shiva, I think Dr. Shiva his name is, said John F. Kennedy signed 1962 Vaccination Act into law. Ted F. Kennedy co-sponsored 1986 bill to indemnify Big Pharma. And Bobby F. Kennedy, or Booby F. Kennedy, as he likes to call him, which is John F. Kennedy Jr., will now get you to believe Big Pharma can create safe mRNA AI-powered vaccines. And that is a worry. That's a worry. I'm worried that that's it. I'm worried that that is the deal, that he's been brought in to usher in mRNA vaccines. We know they're on the table. They were on the table at Trump's first press conference. But I'll tell you who really did impress me. And she impressed me a lot. Let me add this. Tulsi Gabbard. I've never really followed her too much before, but I listened to her speech. She's hoping to be confirmed as the Director of National Intelligence. Astonishing speech. She has an immense history, actually. Lieutenant Colonel, she served in Congress in Homeland Security. She's got substantial military experience. She's dealt with highly classified intelligence. She said she's working to rebuild trust. She's working to end the politicization of the intelligence community, but yet she's completely under the remit of Trump. So I'm not sure how that works. She said it's a national security imperative to do this. She said, if confirmed, I will work with you to address these issues. And I think confirmation really for the most part is just a formality, though, where you just get to sit in front of these various statesmen and women and be shouted at. And I'll tell you one of the things that I find really interesting, and I think this is what America do particularly well. You never hear this around the rest of the world, but Americans always tell us that their country is the greatest in the world. They always do. But I've literally never heard anybody else say that. Like, you don't hear British politicians say the UK is the greatest nation in the world. England is the greatest country. Scotland is the greatest country. They don't do that. They don't do that. It's a humiliation ritual, says Somerset Squirrel. I hear you, Craig. I think that's highly possible. It's astonishing the way they were shouting at Kennedy. They appear to have much more respect for Tulsi Gabbard. But it's interesting. Interesting times. And what else have we got before we bring in our first guest? USA. Scotland is pretty woke now. Scotland's been woke for a long time. We Scots do, says Masbro. Do you? Do you say Scotland is the greatest country in the world? Do you? I'm very intelligent now. Got DeepSeek. David, what is DeepSeek? They always want to be the world's leaders or the first to do this or that, says Teresa. Yeah, they've never been slow in coming forward, have they? And our American viewers, I have to tell you that Brits often think that you're a bit OTT. But I like to think that I've got some American in me somewhere, because I can be completely OTT. And so much the better for it, frankly. There's nothing wrong in bigging up your nation. Tulsi G approved the continuation of the surveillance bill. Yes, Jeanette. Yeah, so mixed bag of goodies, isn't it? It's going to be a mixed bag of goodies. And Donald Trump tweeted about his executive order to do with so-called trans children, said today it was my great honor to sign an executive order banning the chemical castration and medical mutilation of innocent children in the United States of America. And through that, we discovered, I can't believe this, I'm still trying to get my head around this. There are 15,000 transgender military service members. 15,000. How did that happen? How did that happen? And a friend suggested to me, is America the new Israel? And I have to question it because Trump is surely behaving like he's the Zionist kingmaker. Yes, he is. And there's an executive order. And some people have wondered whether the new anti-Semitism executive order will mean that criticizing Israel or Judaism or even anti-Semitism will in itself be considered anti-Semitic. Bit problematic. Trump has launched his crackdown as he orders deportation of pro-Hamas students. Beg your pardon. Basically, people who have been protesting against Israel. And Trump is ordering the deportation of them from campuses. Seems a bit extreme. Oh, Daniel. Yes, it was your comment about Iron Brew. Yes, I thought it was really funny. Wasn't it you eating Pringles and Iron Brew this morning? And I was like, well, that's a way to start the day. And I asked the other week about NDAs for those who wanted to visit Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson, I do consider a political prisoner. I'm absolutely aware that he's in prison for contempt of court. Just to say, I'm absolutely aware that he's in prison for contempt of court. But tomorrow, Saturday, 1st of February, 2025, there's a meeting, Waterloo Station at noon. They're going to be proceeding to Downing Street, stand against the isolation of Tommy Robinson, deliver our message to the establishment. First, they came for Tommy. United we stand, divided we fall, says Tommy Robinson's Twitter account. And so I did ask about NDAs, non-disclosure orders, of course, for people who were going to visit Tommy in prison. And actually, it turns out that it's kind of even worse than that. And that is, people are being denied the right to visit him in prison if they have a social media presence. It's really for real. I've got one letter in front of me saying, thank you for your request to book visits with Mr. Yaxley Lennon. See, they call him Mr. Yaxley Lennon, but they wouldn't do that with a trans-identified person who changed their name. They simply wouldn't. They would consider it misgendering, but they can do it with him, even though he's chosen to go under a different name. And the thing is I just hate one rule for one and one rule for another. I hate that. It's got to be all the same rules. Anyway, this letter says, thank you for your request to book visits with Mr. Yaxley Lennon at HMP Woodhill. Sorry, this is not a great copy. Your visit has not been approved based on information that content from that visit is likely to be used on your social media platforms. That's extraordinary. That's extraordinary that you can't visit somebody in prison because you may be reporting on it on your social media platforms. What's that, Callum? Sonia, I got rejected by the NUJ because of my links to, in quotes, Stephen Yaxley Lennon. Callum, the unconventional journalist, shut the front door, Callum. That can't be. Angel, the march taking place, I think, is solidarity with Tommy Robinson. Kath said, Tommy Robinson in England and Reimer Fulmuch in Germany, both being tortured. Matt said he's being treated like a mass murderer. He's definitely being treated like something else, isn't he? I've been a big critic of Tommy Robinson through the years, but I don't like two-tier policing. We're going to be discussing that very shortly with our first guest. And it's interesting to see that Calvin Robinson, formerly a GB news presenter, he's had his license revoked. And his license, so what happened basically was Calvin Robinson was at the National Pro-Life Summit because he's anti-abortion, right? So he's at the National Pro-Life Summit. He ended his speech with a gesture which has now become known as the Elon Musk salute. You know, the other week when people were saying, is Elon Musk, doing the Nazi salute, and people were like, no, it's from the heart and all that kind of stuff. But Calvin Robinson copied it for the people in the audience who would relate to it. Anyway, as a consequence of that, St. Edward's Anglican Church in Indianapolis said today we have received a number of phone calls and emails expressing concern and dismay over the actions of an Anglican Catholic priest, Calvin Robinson, who was a priest of the Diocese of the Midwest. This afternoon, Robinson's license as a priest was revoked, and he no longer serves as a priest of the Anglican Catholic Church. And it goes on about a statement, etc., etc. Now, I've never been a great fan of Calvin Robinson, and I've never particularly hidden that. This seems quite ridiculous. Literally quite ridiculous. What on earth is going on in this world? Literally. Am I missing something here? Calvin Robinson, incidentally, referred to what Nigel Farage on This Morning with the Chinese snake in the background also as ritual humiliation. And Calvin Robinson went so far as to say maybe he will now be made Prime Minister. I see. I don't know why I shared that. I'm a bit delirious. What's happening, Marlena? What did you share? The state is after you. Not much you can do. Some say the salute was connected to the Romans. Yes, JT, I've heard that too. And that is also true, Ange. Rebel News, who are Jewish, pays for all of Tommy's legal expenses. Now, I don't know if they're still paying for his legal expenses. I don't know that. Wow. Who is Sonia a fan of? Benny? I'm not, actually. Well, every now and again, somebody appeals to me, but very few. Some characters are not worthy of our energy and attention. Right, got it. Ever noticed how Andrew Tate and Tommy Robinson never mention each other? No, I not noticed that, but I did notice that George Galloway interviewed Andrew Tate, and it was absolutely abysmal. Absolutely abysmal. George Galloway, what is wrong with you? Andrew Tate has told you everything you need to know about who he is. And George Galloway acted like in a part like he was a second coming. It was atrocious. Right, I'm going to bring in my first guest. Bring in my first guest. Here she is, Sarah Newlin. How are you, Sarah?
I'm good, Sonia. How are you?
Good to have you with us. I'm fine. Thank you very much. Sarah is from the Critically Thinking blog. She's a mum and she's a blogger and she's a commentator. And I've asked her here today to talk me through some of the things that are on the table at the moment. Let's start with this leaked Home Office report. And I want to start with that because you should see the sheer volume of emails I've received. Very concerned about it. Now, let's just give a little bit of background. First of all, it's called a leaked Home Office report, but it isn't really that at all. It's the Rapid Sprint report. Yvette Cooper, Home Secretary, commissioned it in August 2024. She announced this review, in her words, a rapid analytical sprint of government policy on extremism. She said it would map and monitor extremist trends. And Policy Exchange has been leaked, the analysis paper, of course not leaked, given. Absolutely given. But people are seriously concerned about some of the things that are in it. Sarah, do you want to walk us through it?
Yeah, well, it's the kind of usual story these days, Sonia, isn't it? That, you know, there's lots of talk of behaviours and language and areas of concern and this kind of thing, you know. And it's that I think that's what is so concerning, is it's all so vague, which, you know, these things always are now, which means that they can use it in any framework they like. You know, it's up to the person deciding what is extreme, or, you know, what there's no definition, so it can be adapted to anything, can't it? You know, so I mean, I'm sure that you and I would be seen as extreme under this kind of thing, under this type of government. I mean, anything that they like, really. So yeah, it's just sort of, and obviously there's lots of things about misinformation and conspiracy theory, which is terrifying, really, because obviously, you know, take what happened with the C-19 jabs. That was all supposedly conspiracy theory when we were talking about the dangers and how
careful,
you know,
we're damaging. On YouTube,
of course.
Medical misinformation still clamping down on us.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, so it's always it's this vagueness of it, isn't it? And just getting it under there so that they can use it in any way they like. You know, it's very, very dangerous, I think, Sonia, really.
And here is the woman at the heart of it, Yvette Cooper. I've had lots to say about Yvette Cooper. She's been in Labour since, well, time began practically. And a lot of the policies that we're dealing with in terms of immigration, she's been at the heart of it, along with others. And I think one of the things, I mean, well, there's lots of things here that people are really concerned about. And so one of the things, obviously, is this whole idea, right, that first of all, she completely dismissed the whole idea that there is two-tier policing, right?
Yeah.
She says it's a right-wing extremist narrative, which immediately insults people, doesn't it, really?
Absolutely. And, you know, it's obvious that that's happening. And I think, you know, this is where it goes all 1984, isn't it? Because they're asking you to ignore what you're seeing with your own eyes. You know, it's absolutely obvious that there's two-tier policing. We've seen it in so many situations. And yeah, I think the fact that they're trying to blanket over it with this kind of this sort of talk is exactly what they're doing. They're trying to hide what is really going on and stop us talking about it and stop us being able to discuss it with each other and discuss it online, you know. So I think, yeah, it's really frightening. And I think that the Southport thing, it's kind of been a bit of a gift horse to them, hasn't it, in a way. There's all sorts you could say about that. That's a whole nother discussion about the realities and the whatever of that situation. But what's his name,
Axel Rudabakana.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been a bit of a gift horse for them, hasn't it? Because they're delighted that it's sparked what it has, really. You know, that they don't say they're delighted with it. They're pretending that they're using this kind of reports to exactly that, you know, to discuss this sort of thing. How are we going to counter this kind of narrative after something like this happens? But really what they're doing is shutting down any kind of discussion and not allowing us to discuss these things. And I think they've been trying to do this for a long time. And yeah, this report, as you say, it's not leaked. It was always meant to come out.
Of course. They love to say stuff like that. They talk about how the conversation around grooming gangs is a grievance narrative. How insulting to all the victims and survivors.
Appalling, isn't it? It's just appalling. I mean, the whole grooming gang, I mean, so-called grooming gangs, they're rape gangs, aren't they, really? But I mean, I wrote about this a couple of weeks back. You've got to ask yourself why they don't want this to come out, and why they don't want to prosecute these people. Excuse me, Sonia.
That's right.
But yeah, it's it's been absolutely appalling, hasn't it? And so insulting to the poor victims of this, just acting as if it's nothing, you know.
And the government's approach to extremism says that you should no longer be based on specific ideologies of concern, but on behaviours and activity. But that actually is problematic, because there are demographics and there are ideologies which govern bad behaviour. And if we fail to say, well, actually, this group is responsible for that, and this, we won't be able to nail it, will we? It's almost like they want everything to be one big amorphous whole for us to lose and get confused about everything.
Exactly. And it's that type of language that really bothers me, Sonia, you know, behaviours, because who decides that that's your behaviour? You know, you just simply speaking is a behaviour. It's such vague language, isn't it? And it leaves it so open to them to just put it into any situation they like. And also using the term conspiracy theory shows up a lot in it as well, which is, I mean, we've seen this time and again, haven't we? It's so, again, that's quite insulting to
it is.
Yeah, it's sort of labeling you and putting you over there and hoping that will be enough to make people think that what you've got to say is not valid, you know. I mean, look at David Icke. They've made him into the biggest so-called conspiracy theorist in the world, haven't they? And
yes.
So yeah, it's quite terrifying, really. And I think, people should be taking this really seriously and analysing what is actually being said here. Because I think that's the other thing, isn't it? That you have to actually look at it and think, what are they saying here? You know, rather than just accepting, oh, well, they're going to try this. This is to stop this, or this is to help with this. Actually analyse what they're saying. And I think people don't do that enough, you know.
One of the things that concern me, whenever they start to have their recommendations, they're always concerning. And this one calls for a dedicated national investigations capability. What the heck does that mean?
God, I mean, break it down. What on earth does that mean, Sonia? It's and yeah, again, the vagueness of the language, but you know, leaving it open to be able to use it for whatever purposes they deem fit at any one time.
Exactly.
I mean, what's gone on all this business about this helicopter and plane crash, they could use it about that, couldn't they? If you were discussing that, they could just say, well, that what you're saying fits this kind of, you know. So it's just, I think it's a real, quite a frightening blanket. If they were to implement something like that, it's a real blanket response, and it would smother a lot of discussion, wouldn't it, really?
Yeah, Alice, I took down the picture. She just had her breakfast. She couldn't face the smiling assassin that is Yvette Cooper. And fair enough. Anything is extremist these days. And that is the problem. Exactly that, Swan, is words are losing meaning. Again, everything is becoming one big giant hole, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really concerning. The authors of it, Paul Stott and Andrew Gilligan, presumably that is Andrew Gilligan, the former journalist who was involved with Dr. David Kelly. I think that must be it. I think he's one of the authors of that report, and it was Andrew Gilligan who had done the interview with Dr. David Kelly, and then it got leaked and blah 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 blah, and you know, the rest is history, as they say. And actually they say many of these supposed other extremisms simply do not meet the test of harming national security or safety, which will not be words of comfort, I'm sure, to the Home Office, because they want, and also it's important to say that these findings have not yet been signed off by ministers as well. But when they will, we know that they're looking for a new definition of Islamophobia. And I wonder whether that will fall under this remit as well. I think we're going to get to the stage where we won't be able to discuss Israel, Islam. I mean, it's getting insane, isn't it? They literally want to just close down all our freedom of speech. I think this is one of the greatest issues facing us.
I do too. I do. I mean, I think many people have said it, haven't they? But the only thing you do seem to be able to criticize these days are white middle class men. You know, that anybody else seems to be under protection, and you can't question anything, and you can't what they deem to be phobic language all the time. And it's as you say, the definition is spreading, and it's being expanded all the time. So quite frightening, really.
It is really. But when you think, I mean, the thing is that I'm politically homeless. Anybody who watches this show knows that about me. But you know, the truth is that conservatives were like in power for all that period of time, and they appeared to do very, very little, right? Because it's quite typical behavior, and that is kind of like bringing the money, feeding at the trough. Whereas Labour, they are all about kind of clamping down on us, turning us into a police state. And I think each subsequent government kind of contributes to that process. Obviously, look what Boris Johnson did. Incidentally, just as an aside, we were waiting to find out why Boris Johnson had put Charlotte Owens forward to be a peer in the House of Lords. And the Freedom of Information request has come back, and it actually says, because she helped him so much during C19 to get the message across. Don't believe it. I don't believe it. Charlotte Owens looks like Boris Johnson. I don't care what anybody says.
I couldn't agree more, Sonia. I couldn't agree more. But I mean, I don't know if you quite go as far as I do with this. Maybe you do. But I'm sort of trying to always get this across to people. It doesn't really matter who the person in power is at any given time, because the orders come from way above that, don't they? I mean, this is... the whole Labour, you know, right and left, it's a nonsense, really. They will always be working for the powers above. So
all the different authorities, the Trilateral Commission, WEF, they're absolutely in hock to all of these organizations, and not to us. Yes, they are and traitors.
That's why, you know, people are so, oh my God, how, you know, they're going completely talking about Labour, saying that, oh, they're doing absolute opposite to what they said they were going to do. Well, yes, because they'll do whatever they're told from above. So it really doesn't matter who's in power. And like you, I mean, I don't think I'll ever vote again, to be honest with you. It's just
I can't be part of that system.
Exactly. Once you see it for what it is, it's impossible to participate in it, isn't it, really? So,
Benny has found somebody that I do actually like. Benny asked earlier, do I like anybody? Actually, I love Jordan Maxwell. Jordan Maxwell informed a great deal of what I know, and brilliant individual, and was prepared to stand up. He foretold all of this, everything that we're going through now. He knew that all of this was going to happen. Brilliant. I cannot highly recommend him enough. Let us talk about something else. Somebody else I can't stand. Kim Ledbetter.
Anyone eating their breakfast? Yeah,
I know. I'm sorry about this. She is, of course, the sister of murdered MP Joe Cox. She, as far as I'm concerned, and I think we're still entitled to our opinion, she got in on a pity vote. And because she was certainly not equipped for this, but it would appear that she has been targeted for great things. She's been made an MBE. What the heck has she done to deserve that? Presumably she's in the same camp as Charlotte Owens, right? Although not the daughter of Boris Johnson.
No, not the daughter, but
no,
certainly,
no.
you know, some other thing. But yeah, it's that she's. I mean, the assisted dying bill, Sonia. What can you say? This is just so appalling, isn't it? It's absolutely heartbreaking. I can't believe that people. Well, everybody's entitled to their opinion, as you say, and some people might be in favour. And I can see very specific circumstances where this would be a good thing, but you have to look at where it would lead, and knowing what these ghoulish people in charge are like, they would use it for very sinister purposes. And this woman pushing it, I mean, let's be honest, she's just probably doing what she's told, isn't she? But
absolutely,
they need a face. They need a face, don't they?
They do, but she's already changing it, isn't she? They've had this week,
Yeah.
of course, the assisted dying committee. There's evidence been given to that. And
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that we've absolutely learned is that palliative care in the UK is atrocious, abysmal. And then there was like evidence, obviously, from American doctors, Australian doctors, and actually there were so many people who were like pro assisted dying who were giving evidence. It's really very, very disturbing.
It's awful. And rolling back already,
exactly
you know,
that.
On now, I think they're saying now that you won't need a high court judge to sign off on this. It will be left to a panel of experts. Well, again, who decides who these experts are and what their qualifications for this are? And it's terrifying, really. I mean, I did say to you, I would touch on what happened with my mum. I've got a lot of issues with palliative care in general. We lost my mum 2.5 years ago.
Sorry.
And it was a dreadful time, as it is for anybody. And she ended up in hospital. Unfortunately, died in hospital. But the way she was treated at the end of her life, we felt, you know, they talk about the palliative care system not being fit for purpose and not being enough. But in fact, our what we found was that they couldn't get enough of not necessarily treatment like care, but they couldn't get enough of sending people around to remind my mum that she was dying. We had endless doctors and nurses and other members of the palliative care team each day. I actually had a huge row with a doctor out in the reception area in the ward, because I said, every time I leave the room, I seem to come back and there's another person, a new person, introducing themselves as from the palliative team. And it's sort of honestly just sort of pushing that message that you are dying. And we found that really quite sinister. And mum would really pick up when we were in there chatting with her. And you know, her whole mood, she would lift. And then you'd go out of the room for 20 minutes, come back, and she'd be all very negative, very down, and because they had been reminding her that she was dying. Oh. So yeah, I have real issues with how they handle these kind of things. And I have no doubt that had the assisted dying bill been passed at that time, they would have been pushing this on my mum, you know, and that's absolutely horrendous to make people think that this is what they should be doing. I think that's what's frightening about it. Nobody should be pushed into thinking this is what you should do, you know, because you're being a burden, or you're taking up a hospital bed, and I think that's where it would go. I really genuinely believe that's where it will go. That's where it will end up. And you know, there'll be people thinking they're burdens to their families, so this is the best way out for everybody. And yeah, I think it should be avoided at all costs. I think it's one that we really need to fight hard on, you know.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I know it's difficult. It's really hard. There are people who are talking about how their loved ones have died in hospital. My brother and my sister died over the last 3 and 5 years. Oh, so painful. I know. I absolutely get it. It's just so incredibly painful. And we're already deeply concerned about what's going on within the NHS anyway, without this. And the problem is, as you say, absolutely that. And that is there are great worries here, and that is that looks like they're removing the safeguards, the very things that they initially pushed. Oh, don't worry, this will have to go through a high court. This will have to, and now what we're hearing, and they're saying the quiet parts out loud, aren't they? They're telling us that, you know, yes, it would save money. We, yes, people, don't want to feel burdens to their loved ones. I mean, all of this is coercion. Imagine if,
And
I don't know if you've ever been really sick, Sarah, and like in a lot of pain or whatever, but you're incredibly vulnerable when that happens.
absolutely, yeah,
What were
yeah,
you going to say?
absolutely. I mean, I think didn't somebody, I forget his name now, an MP stood up recently in Parliament and actually spoke about that, didn't he? How much they would. That's right. How much they would save on care and things like that, on end of life care. And I mean, it's just awful, isn't it? And I mean, the whole DNR, the do not resuscitates is bad enough. I mean, I don't know about yourself with your brother and your sister, but I had to fight tooth and nail to stop them putting a DNR on my mum, and kept every time again. I kept having to check that they had removed it and that they hadn't talked her back into it when I'd left the room. And the way they push these things, and that's what I think would happen with assisted dying. They would get very vulnerable people, as you say, in hospital and sort of coax them into, oh, well, this is the kindest way for yourself and for your family. You can just imagine how it would go. It's one that I'm really passionate about and feel really, I mean, I've been meaning to write about this, but I'm finding it really hard because
it's so personal to you.
It is, and it's not an easy subject to discuss. And
I used to be quite torn by it, Sarah. I would imagine that, like if I'd had an accident and would I really, and I was like not able to walk or talk, would I really want to live? And I used to say that. And then when all this came out, because this is not the first time that they've debated assisted dying in Parliament, obviously, but when this most recent came out with Kim Ledbetter, and she's clearly very strange, disturbed individual, and then when I start to see the financial interest behind it and what they're doing, they literally spent hundreds of thousands of pounds advertising on
those
London
tube adverts. Oh my gosh, young people dancing around delighted. I mean, it was just so sick, wasn't it, really? And you say that, Sonia, I was also torn by it. And me and my mum was like my best friend. We'd be out before she got sick. She used to, if we saw like really sick people sometimes, and you'd feel really sorry for them, and mum would half jokingly say to me, oh God, if I ever get like that, say, shoot me, or help me. But it was half joking, half not. But actually, when her time came, Sonia, interestingly, she never once mentioned to me about anything like that, like wanting help to go, or so. And I think if it was there as a thing, people would feel obliged to take it. And she saw how much we suffered watching her, and I think she may well have felt obliged to take it. And actually, that would have been horrendous, because there was a purpose to my mum right up until the moment she passed. Right, that's how I feel. And I think that in only very rare circumstances should this ever even be considered, and as people have pointed out, if palliative care was proper and done right, there would be no need for an assisted dying bill, because people wouldn't be in pain at the end of their lives. They would be treated and kept comfortable. And I think the truth is that just doesn't happen enough. And as I say, there seem to be oceans of people working on the palliative care team, but nobody was actually offering any practical help for my mum. They just kept reminding her she was dying. And so, the NHS, I think, is a scary organisation, and I stay as far away as possible from it these days.
Mike says, my dad went in for a stroke, recovered, but contracted MRSA in the hospital and died in there. Mike, I'm so sorry to hear that.
That's dreadful. That's awful.
Terrible.
Yeah, I mean, that shouldn't happen. That should not happen in a Western, a so-called first world country. That just shouldn't happen. Yeah, that's horrific.
Yeah, and Marlena, lovely Marlena says, I can see how it would be extremely hard to write about. Maybe if you could take this recording and write your words out on telling the story to someone else would help. That could possibly. Yeah. Absolutely, possibly. People do care. Thank you so much for joining us, Sarah, and giving us that insight. Sonia. I think first-person insights are so valuable. They really are, because a lot of the time we're hypothesizing, aren't we? This is a hypothetical situation, but when you've been there, seen it, and done it, you know what's wrong with the system, and you definitely do. Thank you for joining us. Lovely to have you,
Sonia.
With us.
You Everybody. Too, and I'll see you again soon.
Newland. Absolutely. Take good care of yourself, sweetheart. Lovely. Bye. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye. Yes. Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. Rachel said, exactly. Good palliative care is what we need. It really is. Thank you, Sarah, says Craig. Thank you, Sarah, says JT and Mels and Lisa and the whole gang and Marlena, the whole gang. That's what, when my mum in palliative care, 92, she was ready to die, but I said no because I not want. Gary, you sound like you've suddenly become Chinese. Or am I going to be in trouble for that? The system is what's wrong with the system, says Ray J. Yeah, it is. Yes, Finbar. Oh, people did have a blanket DNR put on them. Absolutely atrocious. Tells us so very, very much, doesn't it? Right, let me look at a story before I bring in our next guest. The Labour government is absolutely intent on screwing us from every angle. So we have Ed Miliband's insane net zero, right, which we know is backed by green billionaires. And Ed Miliband is currently doing a very good job of bankrupting the country, of bankrupting the nation with these insane targets. And I think I said on Monday that word from Whitehall, which is kind of like the corridors of power leading to Parliament, word from Whitehall is that he's ticking off Keir Starmer. And that became absolutely evident on, I think it was Tuesday, when Rachel Reeves gave a talk. Rachel Reeves, of course, Rachel from Accounts, who has lied on her CV. She claimed she was at the Bank of England for 10 years, and now it turns out she was there for 5. And she wasn't the economist that she claimed to be either. That's the woman who's in charge of the nation's finances. Okay, so what had happened? What's interesting? So you have Ed Miliband with the whole big Green New Deal, right? And he's backed by some of the Rousing family. They made their billions by Tetra Pak. And they're like really into the whole kind of green agenda, and they're very much they've backed Ed Miliband. And then you have Rachel Reeves, who has now given the nod to more airplanes coming in and out of an already busy airport. London Heathrow, according to January 2025 records, is the world's second biggest, busiest airport, next to Dubai. And it was given the go ahead for a third runway, I don't know, about 7 years ago, and it's not happened. It shouldn't happen because they're going to mow down a blooming village in order to be able to do it. And so what you have is, in one government, we have this net zero fanatic who is intent on bankrupting the country with his ludicrous policies. And then we also have the cold calculating CV fraudster, Rachel Reeves, who wants to open up the world's busiest airport to more planes and the crap that comes with them. This is government gaslighting. They're gaslighting. They're screwing us from all sides. I made a film, as many know, called Paedophiles in Parliament, and I'm tempted to follow it up with 2030 Thieves in Parliament. There's no joined up thinking because it's never been about making the world a greener place. It's always about the money. Money, 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 money. That's what it is. And Rachel Reeves says, I think we can get that done in a decade. They will literally mow down a village in order to be able to do a third runway at Heathrow while they are going on and on about green policies. This is gaslighting. Do it, Sonia, says Jacqueline. Thieves in Parliament. Reeves and Co will make a nice backhander from this. Of course they will, MB. Of course they will. So I am concerned about that. And I know you're going to be really shocked about this, that Keir Starmer actually lied about the third runway at Heathrow. Before he got into power, he said that he was completely against it. There's no way he would have it. And this week he backed it. Keir Starmer simply cannot tell the truth. He'll go whichever way the wind blows. So, but what is interesting is that as a consequence of all these things going hideously wrong, 2030, there's that year again, Ed Miliband is absolutely poised to miss the net zero targets that he set or that have been set for him by his handlers. It gives me immense happiness to say that to you folks. Immense happiness. Jenny, he is a complete liar. Buzz said, Tulsi Gabbard, flip-flop Tulsi. She's on their side like Trumpster. Get him... Hell do is getting whiplash from all the U-turns. The king of U-turns, Starmer, says Mads. He said no council tax rises too. He did, girl on fire. He did. There will be chaos on the M25 near London Heathrow for 10 years. You can tell that James is somebody who knows London Heathrow because he's used the initials, LHR. Point out the ridiculous contradiction, Sonia. So obvious now. Surely the Luddites can even see it now. You'd think so, wouldn't you? You'd think so, Lisa. This is why I do point it out, because I think it's important to. These people are awful. Absolutely awful. The custodians of our tax money, we have to pay today. And if you don't do your taxes by today, you will get £100 fine, which is why I made sure to do mine. And I have a story, as I say, at the end of the show about my taxes. But these people are the custodians of our tax money, and they're filling the pockets of their friends. That is what they are doing. Mike says the government make a good case for a revolution. They do indeed. Oh, here we go again. Let me tell you something. Are you talking about Richard Madeley skewering Rachel from accounts? That was joyous. That was joyous. Sometimes he gets it. Max wants to know, when will the nation say enough? Well, I'm saying enough now. Enough already, right? But yeah, Richard Madeley absolutely skewered her. He would not let it go. And it was absolutely brilliant. It was actually really good journalism. And you could see she looked like she was going to explode on the screen. It was joyous. Yes, you saw it, right? Wasn't it joyous? Absolutely wonderful. Well done, Richard. Well done, Richard. I know that you're a kleptomaniac on the side, but it's okay when you're skewering politicians like that. No, I think he only got caught shoplifting once. It's Rachel from Complaints. They spend our monies with impunity. Yes, they do indeed. Yes, they do indeed, because they're filthy people. They are filthy, disgusting people. Unlike my next guest. Let's bring him in, shall we? Let's bring in our next guest. Here he is. It's Dr. Robert, not a doctor. How are you, Robert?
I'm good, Sonia. How's my sound? All right.
Fantastic. Really impressive.
Oh, good.
Health Freedom UK. Robert can often be found in our comments. And Robert is also the purveyor of this, of which he will be giving away a couple of pots. I love this. We're going to be talking about this in a minute. This is your salve. It's fabulous.
Yeah.
I use it. I think I told you I think it's on this side. I'm pointing at myself because I'm looking at my reflection here, but I think it's on this side. I had a dry spot there for years. I used your salve. Gone. That's
fantastic.
Good stuff. We love that. We love that. You have joined me to talk about, to a degree, your spiritual journey, because we like to talk about that round here. What makes you you? What brought you to this point in your existence? Right. And you obviously have your channel on YouTube. Do you have a regular show? Is it twice a week you do a show?
No, I do a once a week.
Every Tuesday, 8 p.m.
Tuesday at 8 p.m. And there's not many people, Sonia, that do live shows these days. And I think that's why you're so popular. And people need to be more authentic about who they are and stop worrying about who they are. And I mean, I think I did that for years. I just worried about who I was and trying to always please other people. But eventually, my journey's just been through finding balance in my life. And getting to that point. Here's an example of balance. I've got my coffee here, right? I've got my lemon water here. And that's what I'm talking about. Is having
everything in moderation. Is that your approach?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything in moderation. And my journey's been. I worked for the NHS. I worked in diabetes care, and I mean I've had many jobs. I've been a jack of all trades. I was thinking it last night. Sonia, I've actually even worked in the music industry like you did. I worked for Universal Music.
Universal.
Yeah, because they were part of. They used to distribute for Def Jam, didn't they? Oh, excuse me, my cat is just making a noise here.
Oh, we love cats. What did you do at Universal?
I was a quality assurance manager at Universal, so I was responsible for the product. So when you'd see the product, I mean, I'll give you an example. Look, actually, this is my new. I treated myself to a tongue-in-cheek present. This is my new George Orwell £2 coin. I got it from Royal Mint. I had to get it because no, Izzy, stop it. Stop.
Izzy, let's see Izzy.
I'm sorry. I've just become a father of two rescued cats. I've rescued two 10-month-old cats.
We love that.
Yeah, so I had to open the cupboard so he can go in it. Otherwise, he'll just be making a noise. I worked for Universal Music. I've had many jobs, but diabetes. I was in diabetes care, and what happened with me in diabetes care is I would talk to people about just trying to encourage them to make small changes, which is what my channel does. It's trying to encourage people just to make small changes in their life, not ram information down people's throat. I would talk to them about things like vitamin C. Simple things like that.
Oh my days! That already makes you odd one out in the NHS.
Well,
should
it
imagine.
does, yeah. Because, and I soon realised that they don't want you to talk and have anything to do with natural remedies or things that can assist you. I mean, like for example, there's like the most common drug that they give people in diabetes care is something called metformin. Well, there's a natural alternative called inositol, and inositol will do exactly the same sort of thing to help reduce your blood sugar levels. But again, they don't want you to talk about things like that. And we fell out of love. I was in the NHS for over 11 years.
Wow. So a considerable period of time.
Yes, it was.
When did you leave?
I left in just as lockdown happened.
Oh, wow. Did you?
Just as lockdown happened.
Interesting.
And,
that explains Dr. Robert, not a doctor, because that's always amusing whenever I write that. I think
the reason I got not a Dr. Robert. Okay, so I used to watch in lockdown. I was looking for like-minded souls. You know, I could not find people locally to me that I could gel with. And what happened was I started looking on the internet and I found a channel called Raconteurs News, and I started watching that. And there was this great community, and that's what I love about your show is the interaction and the community that you have, and that's what I try to encourage as well. And there was this great community, and so what happened was eventually I built up the courage. Jason would say, "Does anyone want to jump on the show?" So eventually I just jumped on the show and started talking about, you know, what I wanted to talk about. And that was just natural health. And this was before YouTube started doing the medical misinformation business.
Yeah, we have to be careful with that.
Oh, yeah, completely. I mean, I get around it now by I mean, I've already had people strikes. I've already had strikes. I've had a 2-week ban. And so what I do is now I do an hour on YouTube, and then I take people over to Rumble.
Right.
So I encourage them then to go to Rumble, because Rumble is more free speech, much more free speech. But the problem with Rumble is that it's very much American audience. It's fundamentally an American audience.
It is. And honestly, the reach on YouTube still you can't compare it. It's like it's huge in comparison. And I'm building up an audience on Rumble. I actually like being on YouTube as well. I don't like the draconian measures, but I like the model. The model is a brilliant model. It all works very nicely. But yeah, so I hear you.
I got the name, and so I got someone said, "Come on my show. I'd like to interview you and talk to you about natural health products." And I said, "Oh, my name's Robert." And he said, "Oh, I'm going to call you Dr. Robert." And that's where it started. And then I used to say to people when because I would talk to people about natural health products, and they would say, "Are you a doctor?" And I'd say, "No, I'm not a doctor." And then that's how it became.
Right. Got you.
Yeah, I've had. Go on.
I want to get away from the medical stuff because it's just too headachy.
No.
Right, it's too headachy. But I want to actually talk about your journey of waking up. Right. When was the first point that you can remember that you kind of, and sometimes it's slow, subtle dawning on us, isn't it? But when was the first time you think that you can remember realizing that everything what we're being told is not actually what's happening?
I think I remember the first thing I remember is seeing David Icke do his interview on Wogan and being really humiliated on Wogan. I know that you've had you've worked with David Icke and things, and I remember thinking, oh, wow, he's a bit different and everything. And then I remember 9/11 happening. Okay. And I remember watching it live. I was actually working for Universal Music at the time, and I thought it was all a bit strange, you know, that buildings would fall down and things, and like a building like Building 7 that wasn't even hit by a plane suddenly collapsed in its own footprint 20 minutes before the BBC or after the BBC announced it. And then I remember in 2007 watching things like Loose Change, which was a very big 9/11 film, and then finding Alex Jones. Now, whatever you think about Alex Jones, you could call Alex Jones a gatekeeper, but Alex Jones started really talking about things like the Trilateral Commission and
Long time ago.
and all sorts of things, you know, all and talking to you about how that the system is run by oligarchs and by bankers, etc., etc. So I started watching more and more of that, and you could call it becoming more conspiratorial about the way that the system is run. And then I went to where is it? I went to Bilderberg in 2013, I think it was.
Oh, I know. That was the one that was
At
like
Watford.
Watford. That's
That was
it.
at Watford.
Yeah.
And I went to Bilderberg, or some people call it Schilderberg now.
Ike and Alex Jones were both there.
Ike, Alex Jones, Max Egan promoting crypto. Not Max Egan. I forget which one. An American guy. And yeah, Ike was there. Yeah, and he gave a good speech and everything. And it was great to be there. It was great to be about amongst like-minded people. And so that's been my journey, is really, and then just slowly, you know, realizing that the world isn't what we think it is. The world is not run how the average Joe out there thinks that the world is run. You know, that it doesn't make a jot of difference, I don't think, whether you vote in this world now. It really doesn't.
Really? And so are you politically homeless?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I'm definitely politically homeless.
Many people, let me ask you about this, because I'm always talking about how we don't need any more heroes, we don't need any more leaders, but actually sometimes people do need a leader to be able to kind of congregate behind, somebody who's like some sort of lightning rod of what is happening. What do you think about in terms of leadership?
I mean, I'm more into not leaders as such. I'm more into I like the idea of decentralization. You know, whatever people think about crypto, right now, crypto, there's CBDCs. I mean, Trump's just made an announcement that no way is he going to have central bank digital currencies, for example. I'm more into decentralized power sources, Sonia. I think if we go back to more local sources, local people know more about their own what happens in their local towns.
Right.
If we had decentralized platforms where people could use even smart technology, smart contracts to vote and things like that. I mean, people talk about, oh, it's terrible having these technologies, but honestly, we need to use the tools. Like YouTube is also a tool. It can be used against us for propaganda, but we can also use it by communicating to like-minded souls. So I don't try and look up to anyone in particular or as someone that I want to follow. I think that people should be their own leaders. You know, be yourself, be authentic, and just try and get on in this world with as many people as possible. The only people I can get on with now are my community within my channel. I have no one where I live here in Bedfordshire that understands me. I don't feel I've got anyone.
It's funny, isn't it? It's kind of like a process in its own right, really, about, you know, this whole idea of, you know, being part of a tribe. I've always been a bit of a kind of lone wolf, to be honest with you. I've always been that sort of way inclined. I'm very sociable. I used to be a real party girl, actually, not so much these days, but I've met you, and you can see I'm very sociable. I can speak very easily to lots of people and all of that. But I think ultimately I like at the end of the day to kind of come back, shut my door to the rest of the world. I mean, obviously I don't live alone, but you know what I mean? It's like, because I find human beings can be so headachy sometimes, Robert. They can bring so many hassles with them. And I like peace and solitude these days. Does that make me different, do you think? Or do you think that's what happens when people just mature? That they
I was going to say, I think it's an age thing. I think I'm an Aries, and we know we've discussed fire signs and things like we're both fire signs.
Yeah, Leo.
And I've always been a bit fiery, and I've noticed that as I've got older, I've definitely calmed down. And what I've also realised is you shouldn't be afraid to change. Always, most people like the same thing day in, day out. I embrace change. You know, I embrace change.
I hate routine. I'm not good on routine. John said
I don't like routine. You know, I really don't
It's
like
hard.
routine.
Even the routine of walking my dog, I'm always looking for different routes, different ways to get to the park, all of that, because I just cannot do the same thing over and over again. I wasn't born for it. And
Yeah.
John said he's never more happier than when he's up a Welsh mountain under a tarp away from everyone. Listen, John, I watch videos of people when they go off and like they're in the middle of snow and they're in a camper van. I love those kind of videos.
Oh, there's one that
know?
I watched called Wild Bear. She's great.
Oh, I love all of that sort of stuff. I really do. And
Wild
people
Bear,
kind of
she's great.
surviving in the
Yeah,
wild.
I love that.
Love that.
Yeah, I love that. I really
Dealing
love
with
that.
the elements.
And
So
and the thing is, so where I got to, I decided, and it was about 2 years ago now, Sonia, to start my own channel.
oh,
I didn't know where. I thought I'm going to let it develop itself. At first, I was all over the place. I didn't know what to do in terms of how to interact. There was only maybe about 10 people watching, but you know what? It was 10 people that were interested in what I was
That's
saying, and it was
right.
10 people that I could interact with. And the show has now become something where it's very much a community. It's a real community, and I love that about it. And I call it a bit like a poor man Steve Wright show. So I try and make it like a radio show almost.
Steve Wright was always very funny. He was
always very funny. I used to love Steve Wright, and so
very
I've got
entertaining.
I have we have music in the show occasionally. I mean, it's difficult to get commercial music on YouTube. So what I do is we've got a community of musicians, so we play their songs. Is it Soul Sound?
Yeah, Soul Sound.
Yeah,
She's
Soul
one of
Sound.
our mods.
Like,
She's
for
a
example, you
musician.
would
Yeah.
encourage Soul Sound to play a song. We've got drummers, we've got guitarists, we've got all sorts of things. I even dabble on the piano occasionally. So we have music. We talk about, like, for example, this week I talked about the carbon emissions stuff that's going on now. They're now bringing out on the Uber app the carbon emissions. They're putting the carbon emissions down. Oh, it's going to cost you this many carbons, etc. I mean, I also talked about the new plastic recycling scheme that they're bringing in. They've got it in Europe that now they're going to be encourage us to recycle our plastic bottles. What the hell ever happened to recycling glass, Sonia?
Yeah, but I've been recycling plastic for a long time. I have to say, just as an aside, I much prefer the taste of anything that comes in a bottle to anything that comes in a tin or plastic or anything else like that, right?
BPA.
And,
most plastics are BPA.
Exactly.
Bisphenol A.
Exactly. Absolutely. So, but the thing is that obviously we're gathering together these kind of communities that we are, and authenticity is really important, but also to be entertaining, as you say, because the thing is, it's not enough. Some people just think, well, if I just get in front of a camera and I just talk, it will be enough. No, actually, audiences demand to be entertained. Right. Yeah. And I learned that in mainstream media, right? It's not enough to show up and present information. People want to be entertained.
I mean, and that's what, and I think that's part of my personality. I'm an April Fool. Okay, I was
April the 1st?
Yeah, I was born on April the 1st, and I'm an April Fool, and I've always been a bit of a joker. I mean, you can see my cat hat in the background here, and occasionally I do put it on.
Let's have a look at it. Come on, Robert. Let's have a look.
There we go. Let's see.
Ooh, are you a furry? Do you know what furries are?
Yes, I do know what furries are, and but yeah, we try and joke around. I've got a producer, a crap producer called Pete as well, who lives in the lowlands, and we have great banter. And he, as you saw, he makes AI as well. He's into AI, and we just try and entertain people with serious stuff as well.
Yeah, it's just growing organically, because it doesn't need to be a big rush for it. The thing is that people will come if what you have to say is engaging. People will come. I absolutely subscribe to the idea of build it and they will come.
I also believe, though, that when you're hovering over the target, they don't promote you.
Oh, that is, that's also true. That
You're
has to be
taking when
true.
you take the flak, you know that, and I quite like that. It doesn't matter. I think I've got about 350 subscribers, you know, that I've achieved in 2 years. I don't really care. I'm lucky that I've been able to interview people as well. I've interviewed Clive DeCarl.
I know Clive, lovely Clive.
Hello, Clive DeCarl here.
I know, he's great.
I've got a very deep voice and I'm very posh.
Yeah, he's lovely with his
Yeah.
roaring fire
Clive's
in the
great.
background.
And Clive encouraged me to get one of these, a violet ray machine. I've got a violet ray machine, which helps with any aches and pains.
That looks like a sex toy.
Well, it used to be, apparently. And back in the early 1900s, they would also use it as a toy. But I use that as paint to put on
to reduce
any
pain.
areas, any areas. But again, my channel is about just trying to encourage people to make small changes, like get rid of your plastic utensils. People, go to wood, okay, and
Yes.
steel.
Good
Don't
stuff.
use plastic
Great advice.
utensils.
Great advice. Absolutely.
You know, things like that.
Yeah. Don't leave home. What's this? Don't leave home without a litter tray. People, what are you up to? Are you these two right here that I know? Absolutely outrageous.
I've got a litter tray at the moment. My cats have used
it. We love it. Kevin wants to know, how did I know that? Oh, well, I just know stuff. I'm a well-traveled, experienced human being. Talk to me about yourself. I love yourself. And actually, I have to tell everybody that this was not Robert's suggestion to even talk about himself. No. It was mine. I chose to promote this self because
I didn't even think to.
I know you didn't. And so and I wanted to make a point of that, right? And Christine's just bought wooden utensils. I'm blushing watching mum and dad flirt. Wayne, how dare Wayne is trying to, you're preposterous, Wayne, trying to act like you're some 20-year-old or something. Right. And I like the smell of it as well. Right. I like the smell of it. So you gave me this. What do you actually call it?
I call it a healing salve. It's a salve. And I have to have my list here to know because there's so much in it, I could actually forget it. So it's got CBD, it's got and these are all ingredients that are all organic. It's got coconut oil, CBD, hemp seed oil, olive oil, beeswax from my mate Jack, who's a beekeeper, who I've also had on my show to talk about the wonderful beekeeping business and also about honey and how important it is to buy locally sourced honey as well. Lavender from the farm at Hitchin here. I went and picked the lavender myself.
Love
and then
that.
I then turned it into the oil. Honeysuckle, rose, neroli, frankincense, comfrey, ylang ylang, myrrh and bergamot essential oils. So it's packed full of really, and these are all organically sourced oils that I use in it. And yeah, I just wanted to produce something that maybe will help people. And I've had such positive feedback from people saying it helps with pain relief. It really does. It's a wonderful product. There you go. So. But thank you for talking about it.
No, I want to talk about it a little bit more. I've used it for a number of things, including dry skin, including that patch, and it shifted that patch. I also have some issues with my left hip, and I've used it on that.
Yes.
Mel said it smells gorgeous from here. Yeah, just the ingredients alone let you know, right, how gorgeous it's going to be. And I've used it on my iffy hip, and yes, it has relieved some pain for me. And you are very kindly giving away 2 pots today, aren't you?
Yeah, you suggested a competition, and so yeah, I'm quite happy to give away 2 pots of my lovely salve here. So there you go.
You're an absolute star. So the competition winner. So you write to Sonia Poulton at sky.com, my usual email address. I will randomly pick out 2 people at 6 p.m. tomorrow evening, Saturday evening, which gives people on playback an opportunity to also enter the competition. But more than that, you are also giving 20% off for anyone who buys it over the next week, any of our subs, right? But it must be in the UK only because it's packing and postage and all that business.
I normally sell it for £20, including second-class delivery. So you get it sent to you for second-class delivery. But I'm going to do it for £16 this week for anyone who wants to email me. I haven't got a website again, and you can't put things like anything to do with CBD, right? And these companies don't like you selling on Etsy or anything like that. They really don't. They really don't like. If you email me at cbd-salve@hotmail.com, I'm sure Sonia will put the link in the show notes. Then you'll get an automated reply just telling you how to just pay me via PayPal and give me the address where you want it sent to.
That is a great thing. I'm very grateful to you, and I do highly recommend it. I don't recommend a lot around here. I'm bad like that. No, I'm not bad. It's just that I'm quite selective because I don't want to tell people to go and try something if I haven't already tried it myself, right? And you're not paying me to promote this. None of that business. This is literally because I think this stuff is the business. And also Sonia. The other thing is it lasts so long. Like this pot, I reckon this pot is likely to last me till the end of the year. I mean, it's like, because you just need a small amount, don't you?
Yeah, and you can use it also. I mean, I use it, Sonia, in the summer as a natural sun protector as well. So when I'm going back out to Fangarola in June on a short break, and instead of putting poisonous sunscreen on, I put my natural salve on, and I honestly, I mean, you have to start gently when you go out in the sun anyway. But I never burn with this now, and I know that my skin's just going to absorb all those great essential oils and that coconut oil, especially, and the beeswax. It's a form of protection.
We love it. What is the size of this? They're asking.
It's a 60 mil. There you go. Look,
good, decent size.
60 mil, and it does last absolutely ages. But yeah, I just want to try and help people heal from any pain, because it's all very well using paracetamol, ibuprofen, and things like that. But more natural things is the way forward. It really is.
Couldn't agree more. People want to know if you're going to take a cat nap after this, Robert. Are you taking a cat nap? What are you doing today? What's your day's plans?
I've not got any specific plans, actually, apart from chasing these two cats, Gizzy and Gaza, who I rescued from.
Gaza.
Yeah, well, one was called Gary, Sonia.
Oh God, you can't have that.
Exactly. Now, Gizzy, I thought I'm having Gizzy, but I'm not having Gary. No, so I called him Gaza.
We've got Gary in comments. I'm sure he's going to kick off about this.
Yeah, I mean, and anyone, please come and join the fun. Come and join the craziness on Tuesday as well.
Please, everybody, subscribe to his channel.
To my channel. You know, we've got a great community. Honestly, it's a bit of fun. It's a bit of seriousness. And right at the end of the show, we even have a quiz. We do the quiz of the week live from Bedfordshire, and it's just to help people. My show, Sonia, a bit like yourself, is to go through a journey, and right at the end, give them some fun, some serious stuff, and right at the end, give them a quiz, just to help them not worry about what's going on in the world.
And I think that's important. Cheeky Sprite has just subbed. We love that.
Oh,
thank you so much.
Sprite.
And so has Lisa. Gary likes his cats too. Yes, absolutely.
Can I leave you again? I try and encourage people to be as positive as possible. I saw this yesterday and I wanted to share it with everyone. It's this. It says, it doesn't matter if the glass is half empty or half full. Be grateful that you have a glass and there is something in it. At the end of the day, we must be grateful that we are alive and that each day is a new opportunity to make it better. If you have a tendency to see things negatively or you're having a bad day, focus on menial things that are in your power to change immediately. It will give you a sense of satisfaction, accomplishment that will lift your spirits up.
We love that. We love that very much. A wonderful positive message to end his time here with us today.
Grand risings to you, Sonia.
Grand risings
to the chat. And Sonia, Matt sends his love.
Lots of love to Matt. Lovely to have you with us. Isn't he lovely?
Thanks, Sonia.
Now you know who Robert is when you see Health Freedom UK in the live chat, everybody. Absolute pleasure.
Thanks, everyone.
To have you with us. What's that? How man are joining Dr. Roberts because of the sex toy? Is that wait, we're out of here, Robert. Take good care of yourself. Lovely to have you with us. What a
Bye.
star.
Bye-bye.
What a star. A very generous star. Embrace the glass. Full glass or nothing. Cool, lovely man, says Gary. Even though Gary got dissed for being Gary. Thanks, Robert, says Kiwi. Isn't that lovely? Isn't that lovely? Really, the thing is I just said, come on, have a chat. And I extend this to anybody, right? Is that if you're on a spiritual journey, a waking up journey, I would like to talk to you. Come in and talk to us on the 10 a.m. slot and talk to us about your journey. Robert was feeling randy, says Healing the Silence. Was he, or was it all of you lot? Thank you, Gary. Do you love him, Sonia? I love him, as in like love. I don't really know Robert well enough, but I like him. I get a good vibe from him, and that feels good enough to me. Julie, I found it's really helped. I'm eating sour jelly sweets. I need something to get me through, says Halo. How are you, Halo? How are you? So yes, email me, Sonia Poulton at sky.com. Two names pulled out randomly at 6 p.m. Saturday evening. Will each receive a pot of this, and I will also put the email address where you can contact Robert to get 20% off over the next week of this salve, which is great news, isn't it? Great news. Right. Milford wants to know, if Venus is closer to the sun than Earth, how can we see it at night? Think about it, guys. I'm already thinking about it, Milford. You've got me thinking about it now. Charlotte is a troublemaker. There's Robert. Better start making more salve. I have been on a sort of spiritual awakening since C19. I hear you, brother. Does that cream give you a furry head? Marcuson wants to know. Has people been drinking this morning? Right. And can I just say, I see that Wake Up contributor, journalist Warren Thornton, has been extensively covering missing children from the Ukraine. From the Ukraine. He said the children sent overseas from Ukraine are missing. Parents are desperately searching for missing children sent overseas by Ukraine authorities. This does not count a majority of children that were taken as orphans to foreign countries. So these were the children that were taken out during wartime. 9,033 children. There's that number again. 9,033 children have gone overseas to other countries. And Warren has done extensive investigation into this. I'm going to put a link in the description. Actually, it's warrenthornton.com, but I'll also put a link in the description, and you can look at his investigations into this. Benny is done with Ukraine, aren't we all, Benny? We're all done with Ukraine. Yes, we are. This chat has been fun today. I'm glad you think so, Wayne. I'm glad you think so. We like to make it a fun experience. And I'll tell you what I think is fun. Anybody see all that groveling that Peter Mandelson has been doing? Peter Mandelson has been absolutely forced to grovel to Trump. So desperate is he for the role that Starmer has picked for him, which is to be the ambassador to the US. And these people better be grateful that Trump hasn't held a grudge, or has he? Has he? Right? They're waiting for the final sign off. It might already have occurred. It hadn't by last night. And Mandelson does what every non-self-respecting parasite does, and that is he begs. So, as I say, he was named as the new UK ambassador to the US last month in a move that did not go down at all well in Trump world. Not at all. Mandelson has previously made various insulting comments about Trump, calling him everything from a danger to the world to little short of a white nationalist and racist. How do you row back from that sort of stuff? How do you row back from calling people that sort of stuff? Because people don't change overnight if you think they're a racist, right? Anyway, Peter Mandelson has done what every good friend of Jeffrey Epstein has done, and that is suck up. I think there might be a theme developing in this show. And the Prince of Darkness, as he's often been called, was sort of prostrating himself rather on Fox Network. Kitty, thank you, Sonia Poulton. It's lovely to have joined you and your guest. Who is Kitty? Oh, are you talking about in the comments, Kitty? Or have you been one of my guests today that I wasn't aware of? Could have slipped into some sort of parallel universe. Anyway, Mandelson is now saying, I consider my remarks about President Trump as ill-judged and wrong. Yeah, because you want that position. right? And because the thing is that once he gets into Washington, it will be a fabulous grace and favor apartment for the ambassador. And Mandelson has said, I've heard nothing from the president or the White House or anyone working for him that suggests there's going to be any difficulty about my appointment. Do you want to see one of my doorstepping videos, people? I'm going to show you anyway. This features Mandelson. Now, I came across Peter Mandelson outside Parliament. Can't even remember when this was now. Probably about 2015, 2016. And I happened upon him. And the first thing I wanted to talk about was how so I was having a conversation with him, literally, like, I'm going to show you, you'll see it. And I'm talking about what Labour at that point had then done to the country. I think I used the word, you've decimated the country. But he was prepared to talk about all of that because he likes politics. And then I thought, I'm going to work my way around to two other things, and that is Madeleine McCann and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. The problem is that I mentioned Madeleine McCann first, and he, after having a very okay conversation with me, he then literally, he can't take any more, and he walks out into traffic to get away from me. You want to see it, kids? Let's go.
Large majority.
Well, no, but I'm actually talking in terms of what you've done to this country. You've decimated this country. And the truth is that people who formally want to vote for Labour have completely turned their back on it because of what you and Tony Blair did. And furthermore...
Why did we keep winning the elections?
Well, then I'll tell you what, let me ask you something that you'll definitely know about because you were involved. What about Madeleine McCann? Why did our country get so behind the disappearance of Madeleine McCann? Is it a matter for the police? £10 million has been spent by our country when there is absolutely no proof of an abduction. Mr. Mandelson, I hit a sore nerve!
Look at that. Off into traffic, and then a BBC crew, and like, what's this guy's name? Is it Jolene Rubinstein? He's then trying to pick up with him after I've had him. So yeah, he literally couldn't cope me talking about Madeleine McCann. No, he couldn't. He's all right when I'm telling him that he's decimated the country, but he didn't want me to talk about Madeleine McCann. At that point, we'd only spent £10 million only, and now it's £14 million plus. But yeah, ouchie. Ouchie, ouchie, ouchie. Didn't like it. They don't like it up them, do they, Sonia? No, Daniel, they do not. And I love sticking it up them. I'm that kind of girl. Yes, I am. I'm that kind of girl. Anyway, he begged and, well, here's the thing, all that fluff and stuff. I don't know if I'm gutsy or just kind of like, I just get so insulted by these people that when I bump into them or when I see them, I used to spend a lot of time outside Parliament doorstepping them, right? I used to spend a lot of time. I don't anymore. And on Wednesdays was a great time to catch them because they're there for Prime Minister's question time. And so I'm so indignant about the fact that they are taking our money. They're custodians of our money. They spend it in horrendous ways. And I get angry about it. And it makes me very, very indignant. It's all wrong. Very, 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 very wrong. So that's really why I did that. Anyway, he's waiting for it to be confirmed. And what's interesting is that the Treasury Chief Secretary, Darren Jones, actually told the BBC that this is the first time in maybe 50 years that a British Prime Minister has picked a politician to be the ambassador in DC. Ooh, and Keir Starmer chooses somebody who was close to Jeffrey Epstein. How curious is that? Why would you? But Keir Starmer said, oh, Mandelson is, a very, he's politically experienced. He's got great connections, enable him to secure a level of access unreachable, to a career diplomat and all that stuff. Yada, yada, yada. That's what they said. Even worse, they are meant to be custodians of truth, says Storm. Yeah, right. As if, but I take your point. They are, right? Mads, I give it my best shot. Some of my best days were spent out there on the streets, doorstepping these people. I just get a buzz. I used to get such a buzz out of it. I really did used to enjoy it. I loved it when we'd like spot them coming out of Parliament. I had a brilliant cameraman. He's still alive, Lee, and just not my cameraman. And Lee was as kind of crazy as me. Lee was like as go for it as me. We fed off of each other. So we'd be like, no mission is too crazy kind of gig. It was brilliant. Brilliant. It's wonderful when you've got somebody who works with you who is kind of like as go for it as you. And he was one of the first camera people that I had encountered who was like that. And it was brilliant. I would need security now, says Craig Somerset Squirrel. No security for me, ever. Ever. Right, let me move on to this. I think this is interesting. By the way, cashless society update. Of course, it is Cash Friday. Make sure you've got cash, although I usually have cash on my table and I don't. But they are closing, or actually loads. So Lloyd's Banking Group, they'll be closing 130 high street branches, right? That's Lloyd's. So actually, that will include 61 Lloyd's, 61 Halifax, 14 Bank of Scotland branches between May this year and March 2026. They're saying that so many people are now using the app. 20 million are now using the app. That's digital. And I'm as guilty as the next person. I use a banking app. A spokeswoman for the business said over 20 million customers are using our apps for on-demand access. And there's telephone banking, community banker or more. But the point is they're getting rid of those branches, right? There have been approximately 6,214 bank and building society branches closed since January 2015. 6,214. That's extraordinary, isn't it? And the post office are also planning to close 115 branches following the post office scandal. And that's really going to be problematic because I don't know how it is around the rest of the world, but the post office in the UK has always been a kind of hub of the community. So to close that is really concerning for a lot of elderly people who rely on that to pay their bills within the community. Mads uses a banking app due to living on quite a remote island. Mads, where are you? It's the same here in Oz, says all that fluff and stuff. Oh no, really? It's so sad when I see post offices close. It feels like a part of our history is going, and it concerns me. It concerns me. Okay, I want to talk about Lucy Letby. Lucy Letby. Let me see what I have here. Lucy Letby, of course, is the former neonatal nurse. The Thirlwell inquiry, which is examining the convictions of Lucy Letby, has now come to rest until mid-March, when it will resume to summarise the hearings. I plan to be at the inquiry in the final weeks and will report for Wake Up from outside Liverpool Town Hall. Lady Thirlwell wrote on the inquiry website that the public hearings began on 10th of September last year. They've heard live evidence from 133 witnesses. The inquiry received 396 witness statements in response to requests made under Rule 9 of the inquiry's rule. Yeah, the problem is, and it is a big problem, is that inquiry is only concerned with why did Lucy Letby do it, when there is a huge, significant bank of people saying she didn't do those things. And the inquiry is not allowing for that, not at all. And the next phase of the inquiry is the preparation and submission by the core participants of their written closing submissions. There will be live links as usual. Lady Thirlwell said there's a great deal more to do. As you know, we will adjourn now and start again at 10 o'clock on 17th of March. Thank you all. Well, the problem is, as Craig says, Lucy the scapegoat Letby. MP David Davis was in Parliament this week on Tuesday, and he made serious claims regarding Lucy Letby and the Crown Prosecution Service. Now, for those who don't know, the Crown Prosecution Service job is to prosecute people. It decides whether something has the legs in order to be able to go through a criminal trial. And that is the role of the CPS. And the CPS is problematic and has been for a very, very long time. But actually, what is really disconcerting about all of this is David Davis said, can the Secretary of State explain to the House under what circumstances are the police and Crown Prosecution Service allowed to deny access to evidence after a trial has concluded to a defence lawyer seeking to appeal, as has happened in the Lucy Letby case, and I believe in others? This is so serious. This is so very, very serious. The Justice Secretary, Miss Mahmood, responded, he will appreciate
As the Justice Secretary, I'm not able to interfere in any independent decisions made by the police or the Crown Prosecution Service, but he has made his point, and I will ensure it is dealt with by the appropriate individuals, either the Home Secretary or the head of the CPS. And it seems likely that actually Davis is referring to a revised medical report from Dr. Dowie Evans, or Dr. Dowie Evans rather, the chief medical expert at Lucy Letby's trial. And the problem is Dowie Evans has been significantly rowing back. Okay, he's been rowing back on some of his evidence, although he denies doing that. Letby has a relatively new barrister, Mark MacDonald. He has said he has made several attempts to access the report, but had been refused on the grounds that it did not meet the test for post-conviction disclosure. That is atrocious. When are these agencies going to start getting it right? It's truly appalling. At press conference in December, Letby's barrister said he would seek a fresh appeal on these grounds, and on the basis that the chief medical expert had changed his mind since the verdict and his evidence was not reliable. If somebody changes the evidence on which somebody is convicted, that means it's an unsafe conviction. This is at least an unsafe conviction. And to be clear, I say this every time because I think it's really important. This is no disrespect to the babies who died, and this is no disrespect to the grieving parents and loved ones. They deserve the truth as much as everybody else. They deserve the truth. And they do. And the problem is they're not being allowed it. They're not being allowed the truth to be scrutinized appropriately, and we should wonder why. We should wonder why. Excuse me, I just coughed very loudly into that microphone. Yes. Did anybody hear? Oh, actually, let me bring in. This is very, very interesting. Let me just, I like this because this is such a powerful image, actually, of geoengineering. Now, we talk about geoengineering around here, but you know why? Because nobody else really does, do they? But we do, and I think it's important to. And this was sent from one of our American viewers who X'd me, because I don't know if we can say tweeted anymore. He X'd me this. I say he, I could be wrong. His name is actually X. It's Bradenton, Florida, in December. Look at that. How powerful and how strong is that X marks the spot? And I wonder, this week I was, James Dreyfus, the actor, who's been on Wake Up before, he had tweeted a Liam Gallagher tweet, Liam Gallagher from Oasis. And Liam Gallagher was being complimentary about George Michael's song Praying for Time, and basically saying this is a tune, and Praying for Time is a sensational tune. In fact, the whole Listen Without Prejudice album is sensational. George Michael, I believe, was a sensational and quite brilliant genius singer-songwriter. And I listened to Praying for Time, and I wonder if he's talking about chemtrails. There's a lyric in there. And the wounded sky above say it's much too late. Well, maybe we should all be praying for time. Was he talking about chemtrails? Was George Michael talking about chemtrails when he referred to the sky as the wounded sky above? I really love George Michael, says Mads. I was really upset when he died on Christmas Day, Mads. It's been going on for decades, says Randy. So it might well have been. And the thing is that people often say to me, I don't know if I've got this actually. I'd like to just show you this brief video that I just recorded. Maybe I haven't got it. I might have to show you on Monday. I will show you on Monday. But I recorded a video because people often say to me, what is the difference between contrail and chemtrail? And I actually recorded the perfect video over Twickenham Green this week, which actually ably demonstrated it. Ficus, is it Ficus? Says, no, I think he meant our auras as sky. Yes, Prince did, Jacqueline. I've played that clip before, right? I was listening to George Michael lyrics last night. He tried to say a lot through his music. He did. When he said, wake me up before you go, what did he mean by go? Goodness me, I have no idea. But isn't that a powerful image, by the way, though? Thank you, X on X, for sending that to me. I truly appreciate that. I really do. And I want to talk about this. On Monday in Glasgow, 7
Let's have a look at this. 7 Satanists were jailed. This made me think once again about the wonderful Dr. Joan Coleman. I'm going to refer to her in a minute, but let me just talk to you about these 7 Satanists. So this has been going on for rather a long time. A group of 5 men, 2 women, absolutely addled by drugs. They formed this insanely sick child abuse ring that oversaw some of the most depraved crimes against children, frankly. And it's in the Glasgow suburb. I wonder if I have an image of these people to share with you. Because I think it's quite good, isn't it, to be able to put a face to anything, frankly. Did I actually? Oh, here we go. Yes, I have. I just gone, I didn't do that, but I did. I did do that. And I think it's important to know that obviously child abuse comes in all shapes and sizes. And these grotesque pieces of filth, they did some of the most hideous things to children. They are absolutely Satanists without a shadow of a doubt. And many people in positions of power have spent a rather long time denying that Satanism exists. And these people were doing things like putting children in ovens and mad stuff like that. They're absolutely insane. And Sykes, I'm going to talk about the Rains List any second, and the creator of the Rains List, because I met her and she's in my documentary Paedophiles in Parliament. Yes, hell do. Why are they all masked? So they're, well, certainly 3 of them are. But one would imagine it's because they want to hide their identity. And this has been going on for an awful long time. And in November 2023, 7 members of the ring were found guilty of abusing 3 children at Glasgow High Court. They were sentenced on Monday. Things sometimes take a very, very long time. Ian Owens, Elaine Lannery, Leslie Williams, Paul Brannan, Scott Forbes, Barry Watson, John Clark were all found guilty of rape and sexual assault over a 2-month trial. Jurors heard horrifying details. So 2 of these were jailed for 20 and 17 years, respectively, for attempted murder, multiple counts of assault. Others were jailed for 15 years, 14 years, 10 years, 9 years. All were handed an order for lifelong restriction, meaning they will be monitored for life. A further 3 people, Mark Carr, Richard Gackagan and Leona Lang, were acquitted of all accounts, while an 11th accused, Marianne Gallagher, was convicted of assault but cleared of all other charges. And the neighbours talked about the filthiness of these houses, of this particular house where all this was carried out. These children were drugged. They were deeply abused. Absolutely. They removed nearly all. Right, Ray J, exactly that. They removed nearly all the satanic references in the court hearings. The press have pushed the satanic stuff. They did remove all of it. Anglesey, I know exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about Wilfred Wong, right? And Benny, Benny asked, what do I think of John Wedger? John Wedger I met before he left the police force. John's all right. I don't believe everything he says. And that's that. Because when I met John, he didn't know anything about Madeleine McCann, but suddenly he knows everything that apparently he heard in the police force. So I have problems with that. But I think as a human being, he appears to be a decent enough human being who wants to bring goodness to this world. And thank you, Marlena. Has anyone heard a word on Luigi as of late? Who's? You're talking about the shooter, right? No, where is he? What happened? Good point. I shall look into it. Wilfred Wong was in prison, Mel's. Yeah. John isn't a bad guy. I don't think he's a bad guy at all. But John has that YouTube thing, and that social media thing. And that is, for some people, the kind of like more attention you get, kind of like the bigger the stories become. I have a problem with that. But as I say, I don't believe he's a bad person at all. But these people on the screen are. And let me show you somebody who wasn't a bad person and tried to do everything she could to stop all this. This is Dr. Joan Coleman. I took that picture. I didn't take that actual picture. I took the image of that picture on her kitchen table when I went to visit her shortly before she died. Now, let me think. I think I went to visit her 2018. And I report on that in my film Paedophiles in Parliament, which came out in August 2018. And then she died the following year. And it was lovely Dr. Joan Coleman, brilliant Dr. Joan Coleman, who had compiled the Rains List. the thing is, she was absolutely demonized in the 80s and 90s, right? So Joan, she was a psychiatrist, a Surrey psychiatrist. She spent 14 years treating victims. She told me a lot of children are born into satanic families who indulge in ritual abuse. She said it's only now that child sexual abuse is being exposed that people are beginning to believe ritual abuse exists. Well, let me tell you, the establishment went after this woman. They went after her full in. And they tried to destroy her. They said it was, satanic panic. None of those things existed. And then I think it was about the mid 1990s, there was actually a report. And I think it was commissioned by the Home Office, if I remember correctly. And no, it was ordered by the Department of Health, and it focused on the experiences of 50 survivors. And it really had to conclude that there are people who are abusing children in the name of Satanism. It had to conclude that. But the anti-Satan lobby is immense and intense, and will have you believe that people aren't doing that, but they are. Judith, not only have I seen the Reigns list, but I've talked to Joan, who compiled it. And what she said to me that was, and I think I remember this correctly. So first of all, the Reigns list is a list of very famous people where it is alleged that they are involved in ritual abuse of children. Very famous people across all walks of life: politics, media, celebrity, acting, you name it, finance, you name it. And Joan Coleman, this wonderful lady with her dog, she compiled it. And she compiled it on the basis that these children were telling her about the experiences that they were going through. And these names could not make the list unless they were independently corroborated by several of the children and her clients that she was talking to. So nobody made the list unless they were independently corroborated. Jacqueline, I don't have time for that, but moving forward, I will. So that's how the Reigns list came about. And I can't tell you about the veracity of it, whether it's true or false or not. But I met Joan and I trusted her. And as I say, she died shortly after, like about 6 months after I met her. And I found her to be an honourable individual, and she was in no doubt whatsoever that one of the reasons that not only was this whole satanic panic thing happening and children were routinely being denied that they were being abused is because she told me quite clearly that this is held up by a Masonic structure. That's what she said. She absolutely said that the whole thing is ring-fenced by a Masonic structure. She called it Masonic connections. No, actually, Rage, I don't think it was a suspicious death, and I don't think she was actually suicided on this occasion. And the reason I say that, was fairly elderly when I got to her, and she was clearly at points in poor health, but every now and again she had this incredible lucidity about her. And one of the points when we had a wonderful conversation was when we talked about when it went over from her being heavily demonized and stalked and people obsessing over her to this report coming out and her being validated what she was saying. Validated. It would have disturbed her. Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Oh my gosh, so much to talk about, people. Yes, so much to talk about. Another day. But she was absolutely adamant that Edward Heath, obviously the former British Prime Minister, was not only a child abuser, but a Satanist. She was adamant about that. And all of this, the story of me meeting Dr. Joan Coleman, is all in my film, Paedophiles in Parliament. Yes, I remember that, Linda. They went all for it, didn't they? They went all for it. Yes, they did. So rest in peace, Dr. Joan Coleman. Thank you for bringing the truth, being your whole authentic self while doing it. Absolutely appreciate that. A couple more things. I want to take a moment to recognize 38 years in British media. I found this. This is my very first letter confirming my first media job. It was on the 30th of January, 1987. So yesterday was the anniversary. And I began my job on the 2nd of February, 1987. I showed this to my daughter yesterday. We had a good laugh about it. And so it says salary of 5,750. And my daughter was like, what, per year? Couldn't believe it. Could not believe it. And but this is literally 38 years
in media. And I started off at the London newspaper group, wonderful group, 17 newspapers in central and west London, like Fulham Chronicle, Westminster News, all of that kind of stuff. Thank you, Mads. Thank you. And I love it. I love being in media, and I love being a journalist. But I started off literally, I think I had the lowest position in the entire building, right? I started off as the editorial assistant. My job was to open mail and to make coffee. But here's where I had the bonus. I had the ear of the editor, Ray Fox, come in, who was my direct boss, and I had to make coffee and tea for him and the newsroom. And I had absolutely no journalistic experience whatsoever, but we got on so brilliantly, and I had his ear, and I was telling him then about a lot of the stuff that was already happening in the world. And within 6 months, he had me running the entertainment spread in the newspaper, which the local NUJ chapel didn't like, because I wasn't a member of the NUJ, and still am not, because they'll just stifle free speech. It is an antique document, Finbar. It is. Absolutely. 38 years. Here's to my 38 years. 38 years. And still loving it. Loving it. No, Marco, there's absolutely no way I could stop it. I can't. And the thing is what I know is when you love something, you can't help doing it. Believe me when I tell you this, there have been moments in my life where I'm like, I hate this. I hate the trouble I get into. I hate the fact that I'm under police investigation. I hate the fact that, people are trolling me. I've been through all of that. But I kept coming back to the fact that I want to tell the truth. I want to tell the truth of how I see what is going on. So here I am. Here's to the next 38, Jacqueline. Thank you so much. Very much appreciate it. No, on a plane, it is not written in Old English, you cheeky sod. Not written in Old English at all. But see, this is what happens is you can start off the lowest of the low, and through sheer grit and determination, you can still remain the lowest of the low. I'm kidding. But Ray Fox coming, God love you. Thank you so much for recognizing the raw talent in me. And raw is the word, but he did. He recognized it, and he basically was my mentor. No longer with us, but I owe so much to that man. I absolutely do. Absolute star. Truth will set you free. Indeed it will. And we are approaching the end game here today, darling. I want to talk about manifestation. Something happened to me this week, right? And so first of all, recently, I was offered a lot of money to do something that I do not want to do and is not appropriate for me to do. And even though I could do with that money, I turned it down. One day I will tell you that story, but now is not the moment for it. But just suffice it to say, I was offered tens of thousands of pounds to do something against my nature. It's not illegal, but I was offered it to do something against my nature. And I refused. You are cheeky, Randy. No, it wasn't. And I refused. And I mention this because I want you to understand that when I sat down to do my taxes this week, I did so in the certain knowledge that I would not be able to pay the tax bill that would be calculated at the end of it, right? I dedicate all my work time to working on Wake Up, and I am blessed and delighted to do it. But that also means that what I receive for Wake Up is my sole income to grow this channel. And we are achieving it week on week. Yes, we are. We are receiving enough each month to make it possible for me to continue building our show. And that is an absolute blessing. And I thank you all of you for our contributions. But it also means, in common with millions of other people, that when other bills occur, such as a tax bill, we don't necessarily have the money to hand. And I am no exception. So this is what happened. I did my accounts for the year 2023 to 2024, noting bill payments from people I've previously worked with, companies that no longer exist just in that brief period, acknowledging the passage of time. And some things rise and some things flounder, and all of that I was getting from doing these accounts. And it was interesting. But still, I kept thinking, whatever the calculation, I'm not paying it today. I'm going to have to pay it in installments. And this is where it was weird. In the middle of all of this, I receive an email from a regular viewer, a very comfortably off regular viewer. And he wanted to know how I was doing financially. Out of nowhere, he randomly asked, how are you doing financially? He's previously supported what I do. And he wanted to know if I needed any more money. And if I did, then just to ask. I kid you not. That literally happened when I'm in the middle of doing my tax accounts that I can't pay the bill for at the end of it. The universe always provides. There are no brown envelopes, Daniel. None at all. And so I wrote straight back and just told the truth. Basically I'm doing tax that I can't afford to pay. And that wonderful individual paid my tax. It's done. I started off doing my tax accounts, and by the end of it, I had a wonderful, kind, caring, generous individual who had taken care of it. How is that possible? I want to cry. No, Rachel says, I can't pay mine either. Can he help me? I want to cry. I was like, I get so overwhelmed with these sort of blessings. It really overwhelms me. It really does. But the thing is, these things are happening. The right people are gathering around me and enabling me to do this because why? I have found my mission. And that's what I want to talk about, manifestation. Wake up is the path I've been working towards all my life. All my life, I believe I can do good work here. And that's why I want to announce that from February the 12th, we will be coming to you on Wednesdays, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Yes, and it's a different time. Wednesdays will be 5 to 6 p.m. Yes, 2 mornings and an afternoon show. What about that, people? What about that? And you know why? Because somebody did something so good for me that it just made me think, do you know what? Let's up a gear on this. Let's up a gear on this. Let's bring it to a third day. He's going to heaven, says Ian. Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. We got it, right? And 3 days. Woohoo, Kiwi. Yes, it is, right? And as I say, it will be a different time. There are many people who watch Wake Up who are not able to watch live and they would like to. So for a trial period, we are going to attempt to do the 5 to 6 p.m. slot on Wednesdays. It won't be the same as Monday and Tuesday, as Monday and Friday. I'm still working on the format, but here's to another new and exciting beginning as we expand what we do. And I say we because it is we. We are we. It might appear only to be me, but that is far from the truth. The good ship Wake Up is being built not by a village or a city, not by a region or a country, but by the world. There are people watching us right now who are in all different parts of the world, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I don't like the restrictions of labeling people into little dumb boxes. Wake Up welcomes anyone from any part of the world as long as we share a common goal of wanting to make the world a better place for the many and not for the few. So with all that said, that's the fuel that brought me to the moment on Wednesday when I sat down to do the dreaded job of calculating my taxes for them to spend in ways that I wholly disapprove of and use much of my time fighting against it. Thank you, Mad Duck. I appreciate that very much. And the thing I know about manifestation, and I do everything I do is obviously a manifestation because I'm like deliberately manifesting. I wanted to do Wake Up for a very long time, but I didn't have the courage. I felt that I needed to rely on kind of regular income from other people paying me to do things. And doing Wake Up was a giant leap. And I've said this before, I jumped and you caught me. And I love you for it. And that in itself is a manifestation. And the thing that I know is that when you're on the right path, and I'm on the right path, this is the path that I was supposed to be. The universe conspires with those who dare to manifest their desires. That's what they do. Thoughts become things. You are the creator of your own destiny. I am in no doubt about that whatsoever. Ask for what you want and be prepared to get it, said Maya Angelou. And I could not agree more. I love that. And I love the manifestation. And Kath, I love us reaching out across the world, us having so many wonderful people from all around the world joining us Monday and Friday. Yes, hell do. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm loving it all. And the thing is, manifestation is not just about wishing for something. It requires you taking inspired action. So when I sat down to do those accounts on Wednesday, I was still doing it, safe in the knowledge that one way or another, I would pay off my tax bill, even if it was only in kind of incremental stages. And I worked towards it, and the universe stepped in and said, here, let me take care of that for you. So you, Mr. Man out there who enabled that, thank you so much. That touched my heart. Thank you, Fluff and Stuff. Truly appreciate that. And so kind of there you are, really, right? And it's that old thing, isn't it? Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or can't, either way, you are right. And that's kind of the bottom line. I believe I can do this. I believe that Wake Up is here to stay to such a degree. I'm making a commitment for a third day to you here and now. And I do that as a consequence of somebody else's good charitable action towards me. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I truly, truly appreciate you. Yeah, Ian, keep on keeping on. Absolutely wonderful. It's all good stuff. It's all good stuff. And I can't wait to join you on a third day because, you know, we want it anyway. I want it. I want to be here with you. So thank you all. Be the vibration you want to attract. And that is the reality. Let's just do it. Let's do it. So I love you all. I will see you Monday, of course, as usual. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you to every single person who contributes around here. And the thing is, finances are great. They're vital and important because of all the reasons I've just set out. But everything else is also vital. Liking, sharing, subscribing. Let's get us to 100K subs on YouTube, please, people. Please subscribe if you haven't. I would truly appreciate it. Thank you to all of our wonderful contributors. And thank you to our wonderful guests. Robert is in the comments still. Wonderful and lovely, Sarah. Thank you all, people. I will see you Monday as per. Take good care of yourself.
With Sonia Poulton.
See you Monday, lovely people.